Hi. Right, in this video today we're going to have a look at some of the basic principles of websites and hosting. Have a look at cPanel, which is some software for managing websites and the administration of them, and also have a look at setting up a test server with XAMPP and some other software that's useful in administrating websites and starting to create them. Okay, so first things first, just a little bit of a guide. This link should be attached. Basic guide to DNS. So you might have heard of DNS, but DNS stands for Domain Name Servers, and this identifies domains. It basically links the website address you see, like Google up there, to an IP address so that the computer can find the correct server. So there's plenty of information here. Domain names, obviously, are the domains themselves. You will know about registering them, etc. Domain registrar allows you to buy them. Okay, so then just a bit of terminology. Top level domain refers to the last bit of the domain name. You can see it biz, com, org, edu, and obviously for the Google we're on now, it's up there. Second level domains, this is the next bit of the domain, Google, Wikipedia, etc. And then the third level, obviously, or subdomains as they're sometimes known, is the bit in front. So it's basically before that dot. You can just see there in the art, the men, male, etc. and all this. And www is often in place of this in a lot of websites, just as the way it's become. It isn't actually needed. Okay, domain hosts, it says it quite well here. Domain hosts run DNS servers for your domains. It includes all the various records. There's A record, NS record, MS record, MX, CNAME, etc. But there's no point, they don't need to go on about all that. Okay, so just as a brief overview of how it works. So here's a picture I've stolen from somewhere, but you've got your computer, it's requesting a website, it looks up adobe.com, which goes to the name server, which then finds the IP address, and then obviously the IP address is returned to your computer, and then you can find the site, etc. And this applies to anything. So how this relates to websites is, most importantly, you have your domains and your hosting. So your domain name has to be linked up to your hosting, essentially. That's as much as really is relevant for now. Okay, so next thing, cPanel. So I've set up a temporary website which is learn.vodesign.co.uk. You can see here underneath that there's nothing on the site, it's just an empty folder at the moment. So if we go to that /cPanel, this brings us up to the cPanel interface, which is very commonly used on Linux servers to allow you to administer it. So I'm just going to log in with username and password. So you log in here, this is what cPanel is. This has popped up because I've not used it before. There's a whole variety of functions in here, a lot of stuff, statistics, stuff to do with domains, etc. But this isn't where you buy the domains, the domain must already be linked to your cPanel. Okay, so now we've logged in, first thing I'll have a little look at is the file manager. So if you go into file manager here, we'll go to the web root. And you can see here we've got an empty domain. And there's a variety of tools, I won't bore you with them, but you can obviously upload them, move them around when you're in here. You've got a few different folders on the left. Your public HTML, that's where your websites reside. You got your public FTP. Now FTP is a little bit like HTTP, which you see at the start of a lot of websites. Google Chrome hides it, but you've got your H sort of here. You should have your HTTP // that indicates it's a website, whereas if it was FTP :/, that would indicate it's file transfer. And that's not too important really, but it's more important for getting the files onto your website because it's quicker and easier than using this web interface. Okay, so now we'll close the file manager, we're back to cPanel. Email accounts here. It's incredibly simple. If I want to set up an email account, click on the email box, you type it in, you can see that this site's been set with learn.vodesign, so I can create the email address, you put the password in, you click create account and it'll stick it in here. And then to log into that, so we'll just create a test one here called test, password test and test, create an account. So now we go to learn.viadesign.co.uk/webmail. This brings us to here, test@learn.viadesign.co.uk, password test. And now we're logged in here. Now cPanel we've got with TSO host gives these clients and a variety of other options, but Roundcube's the best out of the two, I think. So you click rebrowse using Roundcube, and then when it loads, here we go. It's just a standard kind of mailbox as you'd be used to. Create and send emails from that. Close that. We'll delete that email, we don't need it anymore, so delete in, click delete, press delete. We'll go back to the home. So the next thing is forwarders, which are quite useful. So again, it's pretty simple. An email forwarder simply forwards an email to another address. So I can create add forwarder, Dave@viadesign, forward to. Dave@learn.viadesign. Well, now the email goes straight to Dave@viadesign. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's pretty simple. I won't bother adding it. Domain forwarders, I don't really use them, but there are uses if you need to forward a whole domain's worth of emails to the corresponding email address on another domain. Okay. Again, there's a lot more options here. MX entries are useful for setting up things like Google Apps, but we don't need to go over that really. Okay, so the next thing we'll have a quick look at is setting up a database. A lot of websites these days run on databases with content management systems, retrieving and then putting the data back into them. And the most commonly used in this environment is MySQL. So if we scroll down here, we can see databases, MySQL databases. I'll click on that. So the first thing we have to do is we have to create a database if we want to put information into it. We're not going to do in this tutorial, but it's information for the time being. So learn vo underscore, call it test again, create your database. But that's not all there is to it. You've now created your database, but now you have to create a user, and this is so that not anyone can access it. So add new user. Now just a quick note, everything's prefixed with learn vo underscore. That's just because of the setup we're on. Because obviously this is on reseller hosting, I'm showing you on the moment, which means there's a lot of other people. So by default everything's prefixed to keep it simple. But if we add a new user, underscore test, add a password, obviously you wouldn't use the word test because it's a very weak password, but there's a password generator you can use. Create the user. It won't even let me do that, so we'll put a couple of numbers on the end. Just put 0, 1, 2, 3, but numbers are always good. Create user. You can see it's been created. Go back. And the last thing is to add the user to the database, so that you can have multiple users and multiple databases and not all have access. So we click add there, because learn vo underscore test, obviously they're called the same, which is a little bit confusing, but there. Now for the purpose of everything we do with the CMSs, you're going to need all privileges for it. So you click all privileges, make changes, go back, and you can see now here the database learn vo test has got the user learn vo underscore test, and you can delete them off it, delete database, etc. Guess that's all there is to it. Obviously you need to remember the username and password for when you install software, because whatever software is running on the web server needs to have the correct password and username, obviously. Okay, so next thing just relating to databases is PHP MyAdmin. We'll go over this in a little bit more in a bit, but this allows you to administer your databases. So we click on it, it takes us to this interface here, and you can see on the left these are the databases. This is one that's just created by default in MySQL. We got learn vo underscore test. Now we haven't got any tables in here. There's not really much to see on this account, but there'll be more information to see on this at a later date. But this is very useful because it just allows you to edit the stuff in the database, which is, if things are going right, you shouldn't need to. But if you have problems, you've messed something up, someone's forgotten their password, can't remember how to reset the password, then this is the kind of interface you need to use. But just be aware of it because it is quite a useful thing to know about. Okay, so we'll close that.